not more than 30 seconds off.
Okay. Well, mine almost says this.
I got 6 on
Mine said just turned to 6.
Are we ready?
Close enough.
All right, we're ready. Town of Tryon, Board of Trustees. Have we got a recorder on anywhere?
It says please
Oh,
wait.
there you are.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. Town of Tryon, Board of Trustees, special meeting, August 14th, 2024, 6 p.m., First Baptist Church, 122 North First.
Yes,
And-
bless you, sir.
Agenda, 1, call to order. 2, roll call.
Richard here.
Sandy here.
Amanda here.
Mary Lee here.
Rocky here. Number 3, consideration, discussion, and action on submitted/opened building project bids. All right.
That? I'm good.
So, anybody got any ideas about the bids?
Are these bids that you sent us the revised bids
These were the exact bids that they submitted.
they submitted? Leslie, do you have revised bids today?
Yeah, she's got a packet just like you guys do.
Yeah, it was just the printout of the one, or what she sent us.
Do you need this copy?
I've got it. So, I'm kind of behind the,
We have 3 bids that we're looking at, right?
Yes.
Number 5, the 5th bid we received was turned in 26 minutes too late, so that one was automatically off the
Right.
table.
So
And
I'm-
then we
question.
took
What time
off
did it get
the
turned in?
what-
236.
So in our bid proposal, it didn't specify at 2 o'clock. I know it's out there, but just for telling the room, if you want it by 2 o'clock, you have to put it in the bid proposal because everybody assumes the business day ends at 5. I'm just throwing that out
I
there.
did discuss that
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah, I just throwing that out there.
Okay, we got 3 bids that we're going to look at.
yes.
But I think we got interrupted. You were explaining there was a 4th bid.
There was a 4th bid. Why did we, I can't remember why we decided, was that just the higher?
That's the highest bid.
Okay, so the 4th bid was the highest.
Yeah.
Over
So-
500,000.
Yeah.
I took a look
Well,
at it.
actually, even, it was like 586 if I remember correctly. So this one is
Yeah.
500, but that's the 3rd highest price.
The attorney requested the 3 bids,
To be considered
Yeah.
looked over
To be
because those
sent
were
in.
the.
so I sent out what I sent to him.
Did we ever get anything from Horizon that was more detailed, or did they just say we'll give you a more detailed one?
What you got is what I got.
Well, I don't, well, first of all, I don't care how many of these bids you look at. You know, I just thought you were gonna, the highest one, you probably were not going to consider.
Correct.
So, I don't care how many bids you look at. And the one that was submitted late was $100,000 more than the low bid. So, anyway, I have some things that I think you need to look at on this.
Okay.
Okay, so you're getting state and federal monies on a grant, which they typically require compliance with the Davis-Bacon Wage Act. This is not referenced in here, but they have to comply with that to pay certain minimum wages.
I've actually talked to the grant people, and they said it's actually state funding, so it's not federal, it's state.
It's only
money.
state money?
Yeah, that's what David Hinkle told me. That it's state money.
Okay.
And Jim, that would be correct because co-ed is just going to distribute. It may have originated as federal funds, but those federal funds went to the state level. Regional level, and so you're actually getting them at a regional level.
Okay, so the next thing is it does not mention a performance bond and it does not mention a maintenance bond. Now the performance bond is to make sure that in the event that your contractor for some reason goes bankrupt in the middle of your project, that an insurance company will pay to have somebody come in and finish the job. So you need a performance bond. The maintenance bond is usually a year or 2 years after the conclusion of construction to make sure that the minute they walk out the doors don't start falling off and your floors stop popping up and stuff like that. So there needs to be a performance bond for at least the amount of what your contract is going to be. There is not a payment schedule on how you're going to pay these people. Usually they require a substantial payment when the slab is poured. And then you don't pay until you get the roof up or the sides up. And then you go along paying as certain things are accomplished. And a lot of these contractors, they want to be paid monthly. So you need to pay attention. When they give you a bill, it needs to have where you're at and where they're budgeted at to make sure that they are not going over, because if you sign off on those without paying any attention to those, you're on the hook for the overages. So you need to discuss with them what is the payment schedule. And then one of the things I noticed on this was one of this highest bid didn't even include toilets being installed and sinks. And then the other thing none of them include is what is the gauge of steel that they are using on this, because there's all different gauges from cheap to better. Of course you want to get the best you can get, but it's going to be a metal building, so you got to get that figured out, what your gauge of steel is going to be. And one of these references that your walls, I think it's the higher one, says that their walls are going to be 2x6, which is better, a lot better than a 2x4. And I think one of your low ones says it's going to be 2x4s. So you need to discuss that with them. And the only other thing I saw that stood out to me was, they're going to do your parking lot. Now, your county commissioner, and they're going to do site prep for the slab. Now, your county commissioner can help you with that and save you some money, because they'll do your site prep for you, and they may go ahead and do your parking area, because I think they all indicate in here that the parking is supposed to be gravel. So your commissioner can help you with that. They can get the gravel at the county rate, and they can probably spread it for you for free. So other than paying for the gravel. But that's something that needs to be addressed with whoever you pick. So those were my thoughts on this. And there is no proposed contract. So we're going to have to work up a contract. I have some that we can work up. But there is no proposed contract. And you need to talk to them, because all of them are saying it's going to take them 9 to 10 months to do this. Well, that's a long time. And I think you need to talk to them about it. All of them have in the contracts, they have built-in rain delay days, but they also have penalties if they tell you they're going to be built in so many days, not including the rain delay days. They have penalties on them if they don't get the project done. So you don't want to dragging the thing out indefinitely. And then the other thing is most of these have a holdback at the end, which is usually 10%. You hold back 10% of the contract, whatever the number is, and until they complete the final punch list to your satisfaction, they don't get that final 10%. So that's my thoughts on it. But the other thing was, and I don't know who you want to use, but you probably need to have a sit-down meeting, and you could appoint 2 of you without having to have an open meeting. You need to have a sit-down meeting with probably 2 of you to discuss this with whoever you want to contract with and get these details smoothed out. And then you can bring it back to the council either in a regular meeting or a special meeting to approve whatever you've worked out with the contractor.
Would you, Rocky, be able to do it with Richard on a Wednesday or Thursday?
Do it any night of the week. I don't
Kinda,
Yeah,
I can do it Monday,
just about any.
Monday, Tuesday, Friday, doesn't matter to me. During the day, it'd have to be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but if it's an evening or afternoon, I
well, I'm
can,
sure the contractor would probably want to meet during the day.
problem.
Yeah, and we
I mean, I can take off school, but
might want to meet with 2 of them.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I wouldn't meet together.
not no, not at the same
I
time.
mean, if you're going to schedule a meeting, do one, give it an hour, and then bring
Sure.
the other one in.
Okay.
But not both of them at the same time.
Jim, were you suggesting that only 2 of them meet so that they didn't create a quorum?
Yeah.
Yes, so they didn't have to comply with Open Meeting Act. They can't make a decision anyway, 2 of them. But there definitely needs to be a meeting with whoever you guys want to talk to. You've got 2 that are roughly about the same price.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are other things that you want that aren't referenced in there in your building, you know, like you need to make sure all the doors and entryways are ADA compliant. The toilets have to be ADA compliant. So it's not specified in here that they will be, but they definitely need to be, because that may be, co-ed may be asking you, is all this stuff ADA compliant? And then you've got to have access, wheelchair accessibility to get into your building.
I know
That's
we talked
something
about
the
that
fire
already.
marshal-
Did we specify that in the packet before they turn it in? Or, I mean, before they,
I'm not for sure.
I know it was part of the notes I gave you from the fire marshal about ADA.
And James, can you talk to them and let them know about what you told me about the building, hiring a building inspector?
Well, before you're going to make any payments, you want somebody to inspect this. Like when they get ready to pour the slab, you want to make sure they have their steel up off the size that you think it's going to be. And that was one other thing, was the depth of the concrete. It's not specified in any of these bids how thick your base is going to be. I mean, I would think it probably needs to be at least 4 at a minimum and 6 preferably. So, but, and you guys don't have a code enforcement guy per se. So, what I suggested to you, Brittney, was Chandler has one.
We have code enforcement.
Well,
He's talking about building inspector.
Oh, for a
say-
building,
Well,
okay.
an inspector.
Okay.
So Chandler has one, it's Scott Wentz. And then the city manager over at Davenport, he used to be the code guy at Chandler, but Bill Patterson is his name. So you want to make sure they inspect it before you sign off on a payment, and that it's as per your specs.
you said Bill.
Bill Patterson is the guy at Davenport, but he used to be the code guy at Chandler. Now, if you have somebody locally that you trust, that knows the building trades, you can do that. But that will be a separate expense to you to pay them, and they usually don't charge a lot.
That could come out of the kinship.
What's kinship?
That's the, is that what you call it? The
In kind.
in kind. Yeah. The town.
Yeah. But
Do you think Ryan would do the inspection?
I know he's offered before to help. I don't know kind of where the standing is right now. I can reach out to him.
Yeah.
well, it makes no difference to me who you hire. It just should be somebody you think is reliable and knows what they're doing. They had a code infraction case there at Chandler here the first of the month, and they didn't inspect the rebar in the foundation before they poured the concrete, which that could be a problem. So you need to have somebody that knows what they're doing, and it may be that you have several different people, because you may have a guy that does heat and air to look at your heat and air. You may have a guy that does electrical to look at your electrical stuff. So it may not be the same person, but it's whoever you all feel comfortable with and you can rely on to make these inspections, because you don't want to be sending out these thousands of dollars and go, well, who looked at it? And it's like, nobody. We just walked in it. Because they know what to look for.
You had stated something about Asher not having a drawing.
Well, Asher does not have a drawing.
Okay.
The other two have drawings of what the building will look like.
Okay.
Now, you can appropriate those drawings and say this is what we want it to look like, and it's your choice. I mean, it looked to me like they were about the same.
Was that request in the bid proposal to have a drawing?
Yes.
Do you know, I don't remember seeing that. I know on the last page it talked about having specific breakdowns per trade, which I actually did want to talk about. Horizon technically would be considered disqualified from what I'm looking at, because it does say on the last page, it talks about the equipment and services, detailed estimate cost. It's the very last page, equipment and services. It talks about having each breakdown. So if they didn't do that at the opening bid, you can't turn around and go request it later. That's kind of
Well,
not.
there is one that Horizon says, it's on the very last before
I
they
don't
give you
have a
their.
copy of that. I just have the number, and she had said that they didn't give a breakdown. So I
They
don't-
didn't give a breakdown, and it says, however, prices may change due to volume of work. This is why you need to get the contract done, because you're not going to agree. I mean, they need to get the materials locked in immediately, because the steel prices are crazy. But once they sign off on the deal, that's the deal. It's not going to be a different price unless for some reason you sign off on a change order that says, well, we don't want that, but we want this, and it costs more. That's why you must pay attention to the billing statements to see where you're at on your budget and whatever they have budgeted for that function versus what they're billing. The hospital authority over Stroud had a problem when they built the assisted living because the city manager wasn't paying any attention to these monthly payout deals. Well, when they got to the end, they were $500,000 higher than what they thought they were going to be. They paid it, but couldn't get out of it. So that's why you got to pay real close attention to that stuff when you're paying. And the other thing on Horizon was it says you have to pay within 72 hours after any invoice. Well, that probably is not possible for you unless they submit it like on the last day of the month. because, you know, you're just going to be looking at these in your monthly meetings. So it needs to be clarified with them that you will take it up at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Request that 30.
Well, something like
No,
that.
that won't work either.
Well, with how the REAP
Net
grant,
15?
pays, like, we will never
We'll do a
physically
special
touch
meeting?
that money or be in access to it.
Okay, well then, we need to specify that the
Yeah, they
billings,
said that we have to get the invoice from the contractor and then submit it to them, and they pay the company directly.
okay, well then it just needs to be specified in the contract that that's how it's going to be paid. Because you're not going to be able to pay them in 3 or 4 days.
Hopefully, and they make sure they don't give you fees if you don't meet.
Right, you're not going to pay any late fees or
Mhm.
interest or anything else. But you guys probably need to approve it before you send it on to co-ed to pay. Now, you have some money of your own
Which I still.
to add to the grant.
Hey, guys.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. We apologize.
Yeah.
But we can't hear you over here.
Okay, well, you have some money of your own. So you could pay that, but I assume you want to use up the grant money before you start spending your own money, because once you get done, you know, you're going to need fixtures, furniture, whatever you're going to put in there. Maybe this stuff you have here will work, but it may not. So you have some money, and it's $40-something thousand, $42,000. So you know you got a little cushion, but you don't want to have to spend it if you don't have to.
But Jim, what I was following up on, what you had said, and then somebody else had thrown out yesterday, that when a grant is paying for a project like this, either in the contract or an understanding with whoever wins the contract, they have to fully understand that a grant is paying this. And there are grant requirements that have to be checked off. So it may not be 30 days. It may be until the individual at the grant office is happy and satisfied that everything has been thoroughly validated, and then they will release the funds. You know, you're not really in control of the funds. The grant administrator is in control of the funds.
So definitely have something that shows no late fees will be applied towards Tryon's because it's not our fault. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Well, you can specify in the
That's not
contract that it's subject to co-ed approval.
Right.
And then I assume once co-ed approves it, then they'll go ahead and cut a check.
On their schedule.
On-
Right.
Right.
And that's I think that's the point, and I'm sure that it looks like at least 2 of the 3 of these are large enough companies that they have worked with grant funds before, and that's part of that sit-down conversation to confirm that they understand that these are grant funds. So their invoices have to be a very particular way, you know, the documentation like Jim said, as far as checks and balances, to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as this is how much we paid out, this is how much is remaining. There's certain touch points that need to occur so that everybody's on the same page. There was only one that I looked at that I wasn't sure about how much maybe grant experience they had based upon the website.
Which one was that?
Was that
Horizon?
I went and looked at all 3 of their websites, and just a lot of times they'll talk about grants and working with grants.
Yeah, I
And some
didn't know
construction
the,
companies don't want to work with grants, and they just need to know that they're using grant funding.
I got it. We do.
I did look at the 2 websites because I didn't know them.
Anyway, those are my thoughts on it. How you want to handle it, that's up to you.
Well, we definitely want to follow what you say.
So I think our next step is arranging meetings with take it down to 2 contractors and then meet with the 2 contractors and make a decision from there.
I think technically Horizon's not. They didn't follow your bid proposal. So
I
you
was
can't go with
told
the, the third
that
one
us
since
poor
it's too high.
civilians could only talk at the end of the meeting. Could I ask the gentleman a question? You may.
Go for it, Pops.
Is there a possibility of you drawing up a contract, not a contract, but a lead
Guidelines.
sheet of what you have been talking about for these gentlemen and ladies to go by to take to their meeting with these contractors so that they would have an idea of what they need to talk about to these people?
Well, I think they've been making notes, but I can send them a cheat sheet to
A
take
cheat
with.
sheet
Yeah, I can give them
about
a
the
sheet.
toilets, about a 6-inch slab, about the rebar that goes into the lab, and is the rebar to run crossways or long ways, and is it to be on an 8-inch or 10-inch? There's things that there's a heck of a lot of things that need to be looked at. The gauge of the steel, the ribs, what are they? What is that steel made of? And what is the roofing to be? I mean, there's 417 different questions that we need to ask.
Well, I'm not an expert on construction. I'm just telling you, this is what I've seen in others, and you can determine, all you gotta do is Google gauge of steel, it'll tell you from the lowest to the highest. You don't want the lowest, and I don't know what the highest costs. So you need to get the best that you can for your money. And then, of course, the rebar, it's gonna be crossed. I mean, it's not gonna be just one way. It's gonna have to be crossed. But, you know, you want them to use International Building Code standards. Now, you don't have those here, but
The state does on a commercial.
The electrical work, how far apart do you want 110 drops? How far apart do you want 230 drops? How far apart do you want the electrics in the roofs?
well, you can give them a better list than I can.
Start typing, Dick.
Hey, can you make us notes?
Excuse me,
Can
ma'am?
you make us notes?
Ma'am, I don't know anything
Hey,
about electricity.
hey,
All I've done is worked with it for 40 years.
You just said a lot of really good things.
So Jim, I have a question for you. On the fire brand.
You have to have some 220 drops also
Hey.
for the heavy equipment.
Pop,
So Jim, on the firebrand construction, like almost towards
you
the
know.
end, is this what you were talking about? Because this does identify the Davis-Bacon
I'm
Act.
sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, it
And then
does.
it goes into those rates and fringes based upon the Davis-Bacon Act.
Yeah, they're real detailed, but this is your $500,000 bid.
Right. But that's basically what you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just putting,
Well, you can double check with co-ed to see what wage requirements they have, if any.
When he puts 110 volt drop down and puts in the unit, then he has to label which circuit breaker that's going to and which circuit
Hey, Pop.
box that's coming out of.
talk to
Don't
Rocky
just-
after the meeting.
Huh?
Talk to Rocky after the meeting.
Just like they do in the hospitals, just like they do in the commercial buildings,
Pop,
so that when you put your finger in there and get the knocked out of you, you know which circuit
know.
breaker to go reset.
Got it. Well,
So,
yeah, he knows all the electrical stuff.
so to throw out kind of what Jim was talking about, I'm on the federal side with the Davis-Bacon Act, but,
Are you gonna have an engine
what
generator?
we'll
Because
need
which
to
ones
look
are,
for is
Pop.
that we're following BABA, which is Buy America, Build America. So co-ed will be very interested in that because these are probably related to CDBG funding. So if you hear BABA, that's what they're talking about, is they're wanting to confirm that the materials came from America.
like that.
Well, I don't know that you have to throw out the one bid, because basically that just leaves you with the one guy, and you know, you may not be happy with what he tells you. I mean, it's a 3,000 square foot building. Okay, half of it is library and the other half is office space. So it doesn't take a computer to figure out this is what it ought to look like. So I don't know that you got to kick that out. Would it have been better if they had included it? Yes. But the other two that you got basically are the format that you want to have. So, you know, you talk to them and say, hey, you know, is this what you were thinking about doing?
Right.
So Jim, is what you're saying is that we don't necessarily have to throw out Horizon, but if we schedule a meeting with them, we could request them to bring
Yeah.
the detail with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though it states in the bid proposal that it's supposed to be in the bid offer, and it was opened at the last meeting.
Okay, well, it says that the following is a list. So it's got information about the company, so forth and so on. It has, you know, suggested criteria. It says the following criteria will be given considerable weight in the proposal. Okay, well, they don't give you a little map or a drawing of what your building's going to look like. Okay, that's something that I think they can supplement. Because what you're doing there is you're kicking out you got two low bids. The next one is $70,000 more than the next lowest bid. And you already know you don't have $500,000 to pay. I mean, if I had an unlimited budget, I would probably pick the $500,000 guy.
Right.
Because they got more information in there, and looks like they got more experience than any of the others. But you don't have $500,000. I mean, the only other thing you could do is just say we're rejecting all the bids and we're going to go back out for more bids. But you've got some time limitations on this from co-ed, don't you?
Yeah. When
Not necessarily from co-ed, but we can't apply for other grants until this one closes.
Well, that would be true regardless of the grant. If it was a co-ed grant, you can't get a new one when you got this one pending and not finished. So,
But if we don't move forward in a timely manner, that might be a different discussion that COED has with you.
We have to break ground on a certain date.
Is it October 1st?
that's what I was thinking.
I mean, I thought y'all were going to vote tonight. Like, weird time is not on our side.
Well, but they need to have a meeting with the proposed contractors.
I do think the answers that we need are important.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, reading through the bid proposal, y'all state that you're supposed to have, I mean, I can read it to you. You're supposed to have a breakdown. So I feel like they're eliminated, and you can't turn and ask for that now that you've already had the bid opening.
Well, I think what James
It
was,
should or required.
it said should.
Should,
I
not
think-
shall.
So should and
Detail,
required.
well,
I think
it's a bid proposal.
it's. But
Did you read it? Did y'all read the equipment or services and post proposals? It's the very last page, summary and breakdown.
Yes.
Like right now, so that do you want me to read it? That's what I was offering.
Sure.
Okay, it says equipment or service. List any and all equipment or services required for this proposal project and the number of each. Detailed estimate cost for each piece of equipment and service. Post-proposal summary and breakdown. A detailed list of any and all equipment cost and expenses related to the project, to the proposed project. Summary and explanation of any other contributing expenses to the total cost. Brief summary of the total cost of the proposal, which they all have that last one.
Okay, well, if they're concerned about that, what they can do is send the proposal to co-ed and say, this is what we got, in your opinion, does this meet our bid request? If co-ed says yes, then they're good to go.
So you and I need to schedule a meeting with the
Whenever you can.
2 lowest bids, right?
And like Jim said, Brittney, fax them to,
Well, the problem is if you reject these for some reason. I mean, you could have rejected all of them. But it sounds like you're kind of down to the 2, and one of them maybe has some things that needs to be clarified.
right,
Okay. Okay, let's say you just reject them. And you go out again. Well, you had 4 or 5 bids, is what you had. Good luck getting 4 or 5 on the second one. It just probably isn't going to happen. They're going to go, I'm not going to waste my time on this again. I guess the question I would have about this one company, this Archer, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah, Asher.
Asher, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Asher. They're out of Tulsa, okay? So you need to make sure that they're going to come all the way over here. And you also want to specify that they're going to pay their sales tax here, because you can do that. They pay their sales tax and a use tax, so you will get that. So that could be a nice little bump in your sales and use tax revenue.
You mean because they're out of county? What are you referring
The
to?
services are being delivered here. They're being sold to you here. Okay?
Just like it would be from Cushing, which was the
Yeah.
Horizon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be both of them.
Yeah, well,
So-
no. It's going to be here.
I meant both companies would fall under the same
yeah.
umbrella.
They're just out of Tulsa, Cushing, Stillwater.
Yeah.
Any of the companies, you want them to pay their sales tax here, their use tax here, because it can be a lot more, and at 300 grand, I mean, almost 400 grand, whatever the sales and use tax is on that, that's probably quite a bit of money. Now, not all of it is taxable, because a lot of it is labor, and equipment. But I think you can save some money on the driveway if you talk to your commissioner and the pad site. And the other thing is you may want to, I don't know what the soil is like, where this is going to be at, but you may want to have a soil test done to make sure that the foundation ain't going to be, it isn't half clay, where it's going to be shifting on you and crack your foundation and tear your building apart.
But even before your meeting, if you look at Asher versus Horizon, Asher actually seems to cover more of the bases, where Horizon already identified these things are not included.
Right.
The sprinkler system, the toilets, cabinetry, and you needed a full package. So it also kind of gives weight to Asher because of their detail and because they're covering all the bases. And it's in your budget.
Yeah, and those toilets and countertops for your vanities and all, they need to be ADA compliant.
And you're gonna want them to be in the bid, in the construction, so you're not gonna want to have someone come in after and finish up work. You want it to be done on the construction or the contractor's side.
Yeah, your plumber should know to do that.
so I think we should still, get with Horizon and see if they could, in a meeting, give all the details that need, and then have the meetings with them and Asher.
Is that something that we should have like a contractor just so they could look at it and see what our
You have to
contract would
have a
look like?
contract signed.
We may
Well, I
look
know,
at-
but I'm just saying, like, at the meeting with these contractors
Yeah.
for them to look at, not to sign per se, but like to look at to know
Well, you wanna, have they even looked at where this is at?
Some of them has came down.
Well, did these
But
two look at them?
I want to say Asher did, but I don't think Horizon did.
Horizon used to live halfway between here and Acre.
Well, yeah, and, you know, show them where this is gonna be at, cause it ain't gonna be on Main Street.
Okay.
No, I meant the contract itself, like the contract that you're gonna write up. Or let me work.
Well, once you kind of work out some of the details, then I can put the contract together.
Okay.
I mean, we have a number of these for other things we've done, but, but yeah, I mean, we can put that together once you kind of get some of these details worked out.
And I think immediately after the meeting, we meet and talk about what they said and what the board members that are there feel about what was said and who's most qualified.
Together, yeah.
And we move on it at the
Special meeting.
Hey,
Don't you specially
Brittney?
maintain our business?
Yes.
Would your building inspector be able to do your soil test? Who would be able to do the?
Well, it's
Oh,
usually
yeah,
some
you
kind of
can
an
do that.
engineer who does the soil test. I mean, they're in the book, you can look them up. You find them online.
Is it the DEQ?
The
conduct the
Lincoln County Health
septic
Department
system
has
soil
some
test?
property out
They
north of
probably
town.
do that
They
as
did
well.
the soil test.
They're probably gonna have to haul in gravel anyway, because they have to bring down so they have 6 to 8 inches of gravel
Yeah.
below what's already there, so they're gonna move the rest of it out to fill.
Right.
Put 6 to 8 inches, maybe 12 inches of gravel underneath it. Your concrete slab on a commercial building is supposed to be 2 inches or 2 feet all the way around the outside, 2 foot deep for frost down here. And then it'd be 6-inch slab across the center.
Well, I don't know if Oklahoma's the
We
same.
don't have that.
That's
I
just
was
state
told
commercial
last
code.
year-
They did
I was
that.
told last
Well,
year
the
that
international building code is the same everywhere, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think I'd want to show the contractors exactly where this is going to be, because, like the one that looked at it, I'm sure they factored that into it. But the other guy that didn't look at it, he may think it's up here on Main Street, you know, where you already got a slab. He may not realize that this thing is going to have to be done. But again, this is where your commissioner can help you. And the only thing they'll charge for is any materials that they have to bring.
Right.
They won't charge you for the equipment or the labor or anything else.
I've heard it said, I'm just gonna say this, because my son worked for the county, and he said they would help, that they have told everybody that they will help y'all with that.
Yeah,
Yes, I've
so
already-
They're
I've
willing
already
to
called
do
the
it.
park
They're not,
commission.
yeah, if your commissioner is willing to help.
every district, they'll help whatever district your town is in. I mean, not a problem.
Did the DOT ever mark off the right of way for you?
It was marked and then the flags were moved, so I had to have it marked again.
Okay, so we need to then set up meetings with these two companies. So Rocky and Richard could ask them all these.
Yeah, this man right here, he knows all the electrical details. He can tell you everything you need to ask on the electric.
Richard, you busy? What's that?
Yeah, he also, if you ask him what time, he'll tell you how to build the watch.
Okay, if you got enough time.
Love you, Dad.
Welcome to the meeting.
All right, are we just gonna have Richard and I set up the
Yep.
Yep,
Meetings?
special meeting afterwards.
Yeah.
Does that need to be a motion?
Somebody should make a motion.
I move that Richard and Rocky set up meetings with the 3 contractors.
Well, you don't have $500,000.
Okay.
I guess you could set it up with them if you think you could knock some stuff off of there. Because you actually have how much?
Like 407,000.
407. If you think you could whittle $93,000 off of that high one,
I don't think that's happening.
you know, go ahead.
Well, and also technically, if we go with the second lowest, isn't it state law that they have to change their bid to what the lowest was? Maybe
No.
8,000 difference.
No, you
Oklahoma
can,
61. There's 5% difference if you don't go with the lowest.
It's,
you can,
And it does
you
fall
don't
within
have,
the
Whittle
5%.
$93,000 off of their bid,
So
so
your knife ain't sharp enough.
you don't
I
have to
sharpened
take
the
the
darn
low.
thing this morning. It's
If there is
sharpened.
a difference
Yes.
between the two, you can take the higher one.
Yes, I agree. I mean, because it's within 5%.
No, I don't think there's any.
That state
limit.
statute 61 talks about.
I don't know what state statute 61.
Okay, are we going
Oklahoma.
to move forward?
There's a multitude of state
There's a
statutes.
motion.
It's just
Did we hear a
gonna
second?
say We're doing
Did
two.
vote on
everybody,
it.
did
But are we-
everybody do your?
Are we only
voting
doing
yes?
two bids, the two lowest bids, Verizon?
I
Right
just,
now, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't-
okay,
Can't afford
Because you
the
made
other.
a motion.
so we'll restate the motion.
Yes, please.
I move that Richard and Rocky set up meetings with the contractors to
Verizon
Horizon and
Asher.
Asher to discuss the proposals, have them look at the site, and come up with a plan.
Come up with a plan. My second.
Sandy, yes.
Mandy, yes.
Richard did.
All right, we're ready to move on.
Yep.
Did you scratched out new business, Brittany? Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
a special meeting.
That's good. So number 5, adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Wait, I didn't get to put my
Yes.
2 cents in.
Okay, you put in a lot of cents.
Like 25 cents.
Sandy, yes.
Rocky,
Sandy,
yes. Yes.
There it is.
Do you do any personal work? I don't have a lawyer.
Yeah, well,